Welcome to the 5% Club podcast, the space where ambitious leaders go to master their careers and their lives. I'm ShaylaMKing, a former C-suite executive turned performance and happiness coach. And this is the podcast for leaders who want it all. The promotions, the paychecks, and luxurious amounts of time for what matters most. Each week, I'll teach you how to work less, make more, and design a life you love. Let's go. Hello, Scott, and welcome to the 5% Club. Thanks for being on here with me today. As we kick off, will you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Tell us where you come from, what kind of industry you're in, that sort of thing.
So I'm an accountant by education. I have spent a few years in public accounting, but spent 20 years with a very large privately held company here in Wichita, and then I've spent the last 5 years with a construction equipment dealer that has business activities in about 10 states across the south central part of the United States. I'm a controller by title and a finance business leader by practice.
Love it. So will you give us a little bit of a background? When we started working together, where were you at?
When we started working together, I'd spent 20 years with a very large company and I'd left them for a variety of reasons and came to where I am now. I've been here about 5 years. I joined this company as kind of a wind down to retirement and really was just not knowing what the company would hold for me. It was just felt like a good transition I wanted a few more years, and this felt like a good match for me. When I clicked on the link to talk to you, I was really having fun at my job. I was really just trying to figure out what was next for me. My current company was transitioning to kind of the next generation of leadership, moving to the third generation of family ownership. And I wasn't sure exactly what my future was with the company. If the company wanted me to support them in the next generation, I thought that was great. I wanted to make sure I brought what they needed. And I wasn't confident at that time that I could. And if the family didn't want me to stick around, I was really having fun. And I'd found kind of fun after that 20-year employment stretch and was really trying to extend the fun. And I wasn't ready to retire now like I thought I would be. And I wanted to make sure if I wasn't going to be here, that I was going to go find something else where I could continue to find fun and enjoy my career just a little bit longer. At the same time, my feedback from the family was slightly inconsistent with the feedback I was getting from my supervisor. And I knew I needed help sorting that out and trying to figure out what I needed to do there. So that's the point at which I clicked on your link. You came highly regarded from a longtime friend and peer of mine. I trusted his recommendation. I knew if he recommended somebody that they were worth talking to.
So I think a lot of clients do come when they're like, I've got, 5 years left in my career and I don't want to just stall out. I don't want to just be complacent. I kind of want to see what I'm made out of. I want to have fun these last 5 years, but I don't know what that looks like. And a lot of times the question is, should I just stay in my current role because it's pretty comfy? I'm doing pretty good financially. I like the people I'm working with and all of that. And so I think it's really relatable that you come saying, I wasn't quite sure what was happening next with my company, but either way, I wanted to make sure that I was good. But I do think you had that itch of what else do I got in here? Let's have some fun the next 5 years. Would you say that's part of it?
It's absolutely part of it. It really was had found kind of just joy in the work. And I was learning lots of new things. I had to learn to be a different leader and things like that. And all of those things were kind of re-energizing me a little bit. My kids had graduated and had moved on out of the house. And so my wife and I were starting to find some fun things to do. Combine all those things together. And it was really just a good time in my life that I was a little nervous would end if this wasn't my path.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, your career, you had 2 companies. So that can always be frightening too, what's next after longevity with the company. All right. One of the things that I now market, and you're part of the reason for this, is I market that I coach powerhouse women and a few good men. Now, when I was in corporate, I coached the leaders and executives of the company, and they were 95% men. But since I started my own practice, it seems like I attract women. And it's probably because I've been the only woman in the room. I've done all of the extra challenges that come with being a woman in corporate. But I know that that was one of your questions for me before signing up is like, do you work with guys? So will you talk a little bit about, those concerns and have they been answered for you since we've begun working together?
So it was as I read all your referrals on your website and shy of the recommendation that came originally, there were no quotes, no, hey, she's great. There was a lot of conversation around, man, I'm a totally different working mom now, and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't apply to me, and so what I kind of so the consult was a big thing for me as I kind of thought about it a little bit. I felt like you talked like a coach, like an athletic coach. You have some words, and they're not all pleasant and happy, and you shoot it pretty straight. You listened like a
Straight shooter. I would
therapist.
agree with straight shooter. Yeah.
You listened to me like a therapist. No, I didn't feel any judgment. I didn't feel anything like that. As I said, you kind of talk like a gym teacher. So you were get up that rope, you got to do the job, right? And so, which resonated with me a lot. And so I thought, well, this isn't going to be. I didn't feel like anything we talked about you would lead me down a path that you were somehow soft, of in caring but not soft. And then during that we talked about right we talked about are you willing to do the hard things, Scott? And I'm like, oof, I don't know, it's kind of late in my career, do I really want to do the hard things? But felt like it was worth the effort. What I'll say now that I've worked with you for probably 7 months now, maybe a little longer, you can coach the willing, male or female, doesn't matter. The willing are coached by you, and it's tailored to me, and your business experiences apply regardless of, I should say, your life experiences. They apply whether it's male or female. They're that you have a lot of experiences and you have really deep experiences, and so you've done kind of both sides, which helps me find what I need when I need it. You connect to my silly sports analogies, which I believe you can coach anybody. So I'm a believer.
I appreciate that. And I do tell my clients that when people think about like how much time are we spending together and how much does it cost for coaching and they like get into like an hourly rate kind of thing, I'm like, oh no. When you're one of my clients, you got me on retainer. Like my mind and heart is thinking about you all the time. And so when I know golf's important to you, I'm going to seek out extra things that I think are super helpful to you related to that. So I do think that that is one thing that's really important to me with one-on-one coaching, especially, is that it's 100% customized to you. And that also means your style. I have clients with a lot of different personalities, and some are more gregarious and some are more analytical. And it's my job to meet you there so that it can help you the most. So appreciate that. All right, let's jump into your coaching journey. Where would you say you're at? What were you struggling with when we started?
Like my background, I had a lot of really big finance and technology departments. I'd run some major business units, finance business units, with some of the largest companies in the country. But
Do
I
you want
still
to give
felt
us a little scale for people?
like top 10,
Revenue?
20 billion, 30 billion type of
Yeah,
numbers.
20, 30 billion. I think it's good for people to understand, like, you've been in some really serious roles and you've done a lot with your career. And I always tell people, like, I coach winners. And
Yeah.
I find men especially come there, they're like, I'm not broken. I don't need coaching. And I'm like, that's not what this is, right? It's how do you get to that next level even faster? And so I think it's good for people to hear you were running 20 and $30 billion finance organizations.
And I felt like I was pretty good at it, but yet I still felt like every day I had to prove myself. And I was really struggling with how that was carrying over into my current role. I've only been with the company a few years. I'm still trying to figure stuff out. I'm learning a new business, and I was extremely critical of my performance. It was never good enough every day. Me and George, as we call him, would talk. George is my inner critic, if you want to call him that.
We always name those in coaching so that we can really separate those thoughts from that mean guy than yourself, because you
Yeah,
are not those thoughts.
and it helped a lot. And so I was chasing every project here at the new company to prove my worth. And the reality was it was a lot of wasted time and money. Yeah, we made some changes, and yeah, they were meaningful, but the reality is the business didn't want them, and I wasn't appreciated for bringing them to the table. And I basically gave them stuff, crap they didn't want.
Well, and that is crazy relatable. I know I did that so much in my younger career. Sometimes maybe they don't want it, or sometimes they just appreciate it at 10% of what you think they should for the amount of like effort you
Yeah.
put in. So we're killing ourselves, we're working overtime, we're hurting our health for these projects that oftentimes people aren't even asking for. And it's not promotable work, and it's not the work that gets us paid. And so I think that is really relatable of spending all that extra energy to prove yourself and then to feel really let down by them not valuing it as much as you thought that they would.
That was actually some of the feedback I was getting from the next generation was you work on little stuff. Why don't we focus on the big stuff? Why don't we, and more importantly, why don't we focus on the basic stuff? Let's be really, really good at the basic stuff, and then you can
Yeah.
go chase the little stuff or
Yeah.
the value add stuff, from a lack of a better term. I don't, that's not really everything's value add, but, and then all of this success and all the things I was delivering had come at a cost. My relationship with my kids, which I've really dived to work, I had almost none.
Yeah.
So my world was work and my relationships were work. And when I left that company that I've been at for 20 years, yeah, I still have friends there, but they aren't friends like they were friends when I was showing up every day and seeing them and working with them, because it's all about the work for me. It was all about the work. And so there was a cost to that. So I don't know that I lost friends, but I didn't maintain relationships on a social level that probably would have been good for my mental and physical health.
No, that's a great summary. And just ending on the friendship part, a lot of our friends do come from proximity. And so one of the things we work through is like what feels like a gap in your life, and then how do we fix it? And a lot of it is around being really intentional about what you want. What do you want that relationship with your kids to look like? What do you want your friendships to look like? What do you want your free time to look like? What do you want your energy to look like while you're at work? What do you want your boss to say and think about you? And so we can look at any area of your work or home life and say, if you don't like it, let's change it.
Yeah, and that's been a big piece for me. But that has been, as we talk about more and more stuff today, the personal side of this transformation is way bigger and more important for me as a 56-year-old male who it's way more important that my relationship with my wife is better, my relationship with my kids is better. I'm being more purposeful in the friends and the social aspects of my life. My wife has a very big family. We're trying to do more with them. So all of those things that are coming out of this process, I had sacrificed before being here.
So thanks for giving us an example or an overview of where you were before you started coaching. Let's jump into some of the solutions you found. So tell me, what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned through this process? We'll go through a few, but start with your biggest.
This one permeates through everything now that I do, and you and I just recently talked about this. I spent a lot of years listening to the phrase words matter. Words matter. Got to pick the right words. Words matter. And it always was kind of BS to me. And I say that you can call me a lot of names, and that shouldn't bother me. Words don't matter. Words matter in a lot of things professionally, like change management, right? We're going after a change in marketing or a change in whatever, and so everybody needs to be consistent and use the same words. That's all great. But personally, in my happiness in my professional career, I just never bought into the mantra that words matter. This process has changed my perception of all of that from this perspective. I now use the phrase, my words matter. How I talk to myself matters every day. I repeat a lot of thoughts. I think a lot of things. I talk to myself a lot. I'm probably the best talker I know. Choosing my words matters. My intentional thoughts and words to myself give me the ability to control my emotions and my perspectives about situations. And then as I use those words, guess what? We've learned here through you that these words repeat and those thoughts repeat. And so, and it's everything, it's a wide variety of how it applies. But even this morning, woke up, I don't know, 5:30, whatever, don't have an alarm anymore, which is awesome. Love that. And my first thought was, my legs are a little tired. I probably can get away without walking this morning. And then I said, nope, that's not who you are, Scott. It's not what you do.
Yes.
You are making, you're excited about Scott 3.0, which is Scott 2.0 business wise, but healthy. So that's how I've been thinking about myself. And so Scott 3.0 gets up and exercises without some catastrophic barrier in front of me. Scott needs to get up, and that's what Scott does. And so Scott's going to show up, and you know what? If I get half of my normal walk done and my legs really are truly pain, I can stop and call that today, but I just need to show up.
But you're not going to call it because your silly little brain came up with an excuse because it's designed for that, right?
Right.
And what I
No.
love is you said at the beginning that one of the things you struggled with was keeping promises to yourself.
Yes.
And this is one of those. And now
Yes.
you're using one of my favorite mantras is I always do what I say I'm going to do. It's who I am. It's what I do.
Yeah. And so that's the first piece of why my words matter.
Yeah.
The second piece I have learned, and I continue to focus, and I didn't really, I'd known this probably, but it's my words matter. How I talk to others matters every day. My executive presence matters. And those are words, and sometimes the words I choose not to use, or the times I choose not to speak. Relationship building. It's making sure I'm spending time talking with others and showing interest and care in others, and then results within my own team.
Yeah, we influence ourselves more than the rest of the world combined, and we talk to ourselves more than the rest of the world combined. And you mentioned this earlier, 90% of our thoughts are the same today as they were yesterday. So those freaking thoughts do matter. And I love your slogan of my words matter because they sure do.
So
They're very powerful.
it does. And then for me, how it kind of folds into life is you and I've talked about, and there's a lot of things we've talked about our examples, but I recently had a heart attack. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. We'll probably talk about it some more coming up.
Let's jump in. Let's do it.
And so all those thoughts, all the things I had been practicing, how I talked to myself. I was driving while it happened. I was almost an hour from the nearest trauma center.
And you were out of state, not at home.
Out of state, not at home, by myself. Never panicked. Got to the hospital, walked in, talked to him. A lot of things happened real fast. I walked in the hospital at 5:30 local time, and by 8:30 I had 5 stents in my heart and in the vessels around my heart. And
that's how significant it was. That's how
yeah.
fast they had to move to put in 5 stents. Yeah.
Yeah. And so inside of 3 hours, I was in the ICU and other than I had a hole in my arm, I had no idea they had done it. I had just laid there and had thought about, I was literally laying there on the operating table, and I looked at the nurse and go, you guys could use a TV on the ceiling. She goes, you do not sound like our normal patient. I usually have 2,000 questions as to what's going on and am I going to live? And if they're even awake. And here I'm going, you could use a TV because this is kind of boring. But I was calm.
Kind of boring. His heart attack was kind of boring, y'all. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is that the most successful and happiest people know how to manage their mind. You have learned how to manage your mind and you had practiced through smaller things. And then when this big thing happened, you did not let your thoughts go crazy from a place of fear and stress and worry and pain. You instead were joking with the staff.
Yeah. And the old me would have either been telling them what to do, arguing with them about what I was going to do, or whether I really needed this, or have been panicked about the things I hadn't accomplished yet. And none of that was, during the drive, I was chatting with ChatGPT on my phone, driving down the road, talking about my symptoms. It was talking back to me. All of that intentional thought made a difference. And then what was my concern coming out of that? I asked you, is there something wrong with me? Because my life didn't flash before my eyes. Like people talk about near-death experiences. I know you've had a real death experience, but the bottom line is it didn't flash before my eyes. I never once worried about what I wasn't going to do tomorrow. I was like, I'm in the right spot. I'm doing what they're telling me to do. I got really qualified people around me. The guy on the left of me is trying to shove a tree limb up my arm because He needs the biggest possible IV they can get in me, and he doesn't care if it hurts or not because he needs to be fast. All those thoughts are going through my mind. And I'm like, it's all slow motion. It's just all moving around me. I was trying to focus on remembering the people, the caregivers' names, so I could talk to them. And it was so, I just thought it was really weird. And so you and I talked about it afterwards. It was
And what did
super
I tell
important to
you
me.
when you said, am I doing it wrong?
I believe your words were, no, I think you're doing it right. You're doing it exactly right.
Welcome to the 5% Club, Scott. This is the point. 95% of people let both their thoughts and their emotions happen to them, right? They're not in charge of their thoughts and their emotions. And because of that, they're driven by fear and they suffer unnecessarily. And so you were able to take this really difficult situation and not add extra pain to it. It's a beautiful thing. And you did this in a lot of small ways before you got to the heart attack. I know we started with the heart attack, but will you share other ways that you saw your life improve in smaller areas?
the first real sign, you and I probably talked about this, was we were in Kansas City for a short vacation in the spring.
Picking up a
And
puppy.
what's that?
You were picking up your puppy, right?
We were picking out the new puppy, but we were up there for the Big 12 basketball tournament, which Jill and I are both college basketball fans and love watching college basketball. And so we were up there. We had just come home from picking out our new black lab, Ellie. And anyway, we had gone through our last night there. We had parked the car with valet, came down the next morning to check out, and the valet's like, yeah, we got a problem. He walked like, well, where's my truck? He goes, yeah, it's still in the garage. I'm like, oh, great. Somebody broke it into my truck, and they just smashed a window in. Well, smashed a window and a half, anyways. Man, and this had been the kind of thing that would have derailed me for a week.
Yeah.
It would have, the parking garage where it was parked in lied to me about covering the expense. And it was really, we had delays in my repair. It just a whole week or 2 weeks that I didn't have it was just a bad 2 weeks and would have been devastating. I would have carried it around with me heavily. Man, that day, first of all, I realized there's nothing I could do about it. What was, had to figure out how to get home. Even my wife commented on the fact, she goes, you're really calm right now because you love this truck. And I'm like, yeah. And clearly somebody thought they needed whatever was inside more than I needed it. And I don't know why the truck next to mine that was full of tools didn't get broken into, but it was mine and it was what it was. An old me would have had an attorney on the line, probably trying to talk about suing the parking garage and suing the hotel I stayed at.
Oh, and all the extra drama. And then you'd be calling people and be like, you won't believe what crap happened to me, right?
And that would have consumed my week at work talking about it.
Yeah.
Because everybody stopped by. My favorite was somebody assumed I rolled my truck because I was missing two windows on one side. I'm like, no. And so it was a funny story to tell. Again, no big deal. It just was. And all of that was because here was the situation and I had my choice. I can choose to get worked up about it or I can choose to accept I am where I am. And in my situation, I was even of the mindset at that point, clearly somebody needed that, whatever was in there more than I did. I guess they don't live as blessed of a life as I do. I can get another one. They should have it. Again,
so what
don't
Scott is
get me
talking
wrong.
about right now is a process that we call the model. And so in the model, what it teaches us is regardless of what the circumstance is, we get to have a thought about it. And that thought creates a feeling. And so he chose that thought. I guess they needed it more than me because I'm so blessed. Because it gave him a feeling of calm, control, happiness about the blessings that he does have in his life. And so you can go back. There's a couple of podcasts, one that's on silly little people, because people keep doing silly little things and how we can handle that. And then one on the model that can be really helpful to learn some of the tools that Scott was using in this process. But the whole idea is that we cannot help what happens to us. And my coach says life is 50-50. I like to think it's 70-30 because I'm an optimist. But we can't control those things that happen to us. But we can keep them from causing us additional pain. And that's what you just saw in those two examples. So Scott could have been pissed off for weeks and gotten lawyers involved and all of that. Or he could have just went back to work and life and enjoying the things that he enjoys.
Yes.
And so that's the choice he made, which is beautiful. Same thing in the hospital. Like this could be a devastating thing where you're still depressed and not back at work because it was such an emotional thing for you to have a heart attack while you were alone and out of town. And instead, you're like, so this happened. So now I need to make some changes.
Yep.
And so I need to work on the plan to make the changes because we still want reverence in a situation like that it was serious. But that doesn't mean that we have to add extra pain to ourselves. So
Now, one of the fascinating things that came out of my heart attack was their number one concern after the heart attack was whether or not I had a therapist. And because people who have heart attacks have an insanely high a level of
depression
depression afterwards. And it's because of all these life changes. My life's going to suck, and I can't eat the things I used to eat, and I can't drink the things I used to drink. And what's the point? It's not, life isn't worth living. They put you on so many drugs, it probably would be hard to get to end it. But at that point, they were really worried about whether or not I had the emotional support to transition through this change. And my thought was sitting there going, how exciting is it going to be for Scott 3.0, who's now, because he has to
yes.
make these changes, because I have to make these changes, I'm now going to be a healthier version of me, which is something you and I have been talking about anyways. And so, okay,
Now
it
it gives you that to go do it. And you're like, I
took a
can
heart attack.
imagine a future that is even brighter because of this.
Yeah. And that was like, oh man, man, a year from now, maybe I'll finally be back to my weight I was in college, and maybe I'll be walking 5 miles a day, or maybe doing a little. I used to do some 5 and 10K running. I don't know that I'm ready to go back to that, but maybe I'll get back to some core work and things like that. I'll improve my golf game, all because I had the reality of this event. So he's like, I'm like, yeah, you don't have to worry about that, dude. I've got that covered.
Good. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
this work it prepares us for when life's that we can handle it with a completely different level of capacity. The amount of work I can get done, the amount of stress that I can be under, the amount of things that I can handle without it being devastating, God, 100-fold what I used to be able to. And so we learn these skill sets. And then when it happens, you get to see that, oh my God, it's working. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm actually there. I mean, you had other, like another smaller example about you had to change the date of your vacation and it made it like 2 or 3 times the cost. You're like, I would have been pissed before. I would have shown my wife that I was upset about it.
Yeah.
And now this time you were like, no, we're still going because we're planning an epic life. And okay, so it costs more.
Yeah. I'm like, just book it, babe. Let's go. And she's like, really? Because this is a lot more. I'm like, just go for it. Let's go. You and I both need the break. Just now realized that when we normally would have gone, we had just scheduled a fundraiser for the charity that we both are on the board of. And I'm like, let's go. I don't know when we're going to have another chance. And let's squeeze it in. And we know where we're going. So we know we're going to have a good time. Spend the money. Let's go.
Let's do it. I love it. Yeah. So
It
2
was
things
funny.
you just said that I want to point out. We work intentionally on planning an epic life. And so we talk about those things that make your life epic, specifically you, that give you the most oodles for your money. And that was definitely one of them. You said my vacations with Jill are like, my thing.
Yeah.
And so you already knew that was aligned to who you wanted to be. And we can get
Yep.
into the vision blueprint a little bit more. But the other thing I want to mention is one of my favorite things is when my clients tell me how their spouse is like, wait, what? You seem so different. Is that really you, Scott? Scott's saying we can spend all that money? Scott's saying it's okay? Scott's not stressed about the car being broken into, right?
No,
Seeing the new side of you from your spouse's view is one of my favorites.
I think it's been awesome. Phil's not here, but she probably would agree.
All right. Well, do you want to talk about the life vision blueprint?
I do. So again, going back to this, just help me focus on my professional career, joy stuff, whatever, happiness, whatever. And so this was really a big surprise to me. And we talked about it. It just took a minute because we did it as a group, which is one of the things I really enjoyed also because I got to meet some of your other clients that I probably wouldn't have otherwise met. But we did this group activity where we spent, I think, 4 or 5 weeks.
And in the future, if you join the success circle, so it's going to be how you work with me now is you start in the PH lab. And then after the PH lab, you get an invite only into a success circle, which is a small peer group. This is the first exercise we will do in those success circles. So as you're explaining it, just know that's where you get it if you want it.
And so I had, we talked about how in my roles, or we talked about all of us as groups, how we in our roles as leaders had done visions, had done plans, budgets. You can call them whatever you want to call them,
All
but
the
at the end of
strategy
the
work. Yeah.
right, all the strategy work about where we're going to go with our organization, our business, and it never crossed my mind to do it for my life. Literally, why don't you do it for your life? Probably ironically, my daughter is she's really good at this. She's a planner and she's got her life planned out. But even to that extent, I don't know that she thinks about it from the total, hey, what am I really trying to accomplish? Hers is more of a, how do I get from here to there by this time? But for me and going through this, who are we about? What's our vision statement? Who am I? What are the things I value in life? What are the things I don't value in life? And how am I going to go live the life that brings me towards those values? And we talk a lot about congruency. And you're right. If you're living a life that if you're living a life you value, it's a lot easier to live that life than it is if you're not living a life you value. And so I'd read about it in books, but it never really resonated with me. And so it's again,
And there's a ton out there around goal setting, right? What's your next big goal in your life? But this is different. This is like literally what do you want your entire life to look like? And what does extraordinary look like in every category of your life? And how does that tie to your values and who you want to be when you grow up as a human, right? Not
yeah,
just what you want to do and accomplish. So it's that more holistic look.
yeah, that was the beauty of it for me, and it was one of the things that it helped me define who I am and what I do, and then it helped me make sure my time and my money, which are two things we talk about a lot, that my time and my money are focused on the things I value. And so, if we're going to be essential, we have to make sure we are spending our time on the right things. And if we're going to have FU money and we're going to find value from earning that money, well, I better spend my money on the things I value. And so if I do those two things, I will bring even more happiness to myself. And one of the big pieces in there is cultivating joy, which just, again had never crossed my mind. And it gives us the opportunity for Jill and I to sit down and go, hey, there's this cruise in the Maldives Islands or something. I don't know. I can't remember exactly where it is right now. And oh, by the way, the next opportunity for us to sign up for it's a year from now. So are we going to do it? Let's talk about it. Let's figure out. And that's
Where does
fun.
it hit on the priority list of how we want to
Yes.
spend our money and our time? Yeah.
Yeah. And so just that whole life vision blueprint piece would be worth it if I did nothing else out of this. So
That's awesome to hear. So one of the things that, and because I'm huge on ROI, it's always crazy because up front everyone's like, what can we guarantee? And I'm like, well, that's really difficult because everyone is unique. But it is so important to me that my clients always get what they came for. And so that's nice to hear. Thank you. That one of the things that came out of it for you was you were really intentional about what you wanted your relationship to look like with your children. So can we talk about that for a minute? Because we created one of the exercises we do in there just to bring everybody up to speed is we say, what does extraordinary look like for different categories of your life? That may be your career, it may be you with your health and like as an athlete or your hobbies, and it's your relationship with others. And you choose which ones are the most critical relationships for you. And then, of course, we have the fun and adventure bucket too. And so for the relationships one, you immediately knew you wanted to focus on your children. And will you talk us through a little bit about what you were wanting to get, what we changed, and then how it stuck?
and so my relationship with my kids was, yeah, showed up for a lot of things. I did a lot of things as they grew up, but as they became adults, I felt like they had a touch of, I don't know if they were necessarily not proud, but it was one of those that it was a struggle for them in the way I had just interacted with them over time. At that point in my life, I'm like, man, my conversations with my adult children, especially being divorced, uh, they were incredibly logistical. What's the next
Mm,
holiday? Are you doing it with your mom? You're doing it with me? When are you going to be available?
Yeah.
We went through a lot of, here's the next family event. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? It was a lot of what, when, and where. And I said, that's not the relationship I want. I want my children to want to spend time with me. I want my adult children to want to spend time with me because they were no longer children. I wanted my presence in their life to be meaningful
To be
for
valuable,
me,
yeah, to
so,
them.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
And you talked a lot about wanting that intimate relationship. Like, I want to know who they are and what they like to do each week and what their actual life is like, not just these holiday touch
yeah.
points.
And so you and I set up again, talking about the hard parts, the hard things. You got to do the hard things. We set up a concept of a weekly call with them, and it started with my daughter, probably because I thought it'd be easier, and it was, it was, but it was pretty simple. Hey, I want to change being honest with them up front. I want to change our relationship, and here's what I'm willing to try to do, and if you'll meet me along the way, I will promise you I'll show up. And even if we don't have a lot to talk about, we can just touch base and everything. And so I now have a weekly conversation with each of them. We are flexible in how it happens, but it typically happens the same day of the week. We now talk about their lives. We talk about what they value. We talk about what's going on in my life, and we talk about the passions and their dreams. I learned something about a company that I thought my son was a huge fan of, and it turns out he thinks they're ruining the thing he's passionate about, and I never knew that. I just knew they were a big part of his life, and it was fascinating to have that conversation for 30 minutes about,
Yeah.
and I resonated with me because I'm a business person, and it resonated with him because he has a passion around a game and a gaming space, and bringing
Yeah.
those two together was something I never would have had, never would have known if I
And the
hadn't.
only way that you knew that is because you said, I care. You set up that intentional time, and then it built over time. You talked about how, like, you learn more and more about your kids every week, which I love. Like,
Yeah,
intimately knowing your children is such a beautiful thing. And then you just it kept getting like easier and longer and more in depth. And now it's just like, damn, I look so forward to this. They're so interesting. These kids are awesome. Like, you knew that before, but now you get to like experience it.
it's been fascinating, and it's on the happiness return ROI measurement scale. It's been unmeasurable just from this piece. So it's worth every penny if I do nothing more than continue to maintain the relationship with my kids.
One thing that was pretty cool about it, so when we first started talking about how do you want to improve the relationship with your kids, you went into a lot of why it's going to be difficult. Like, here's how I've been in the past, and here's what I think I did wrong, and I'm like, no, no, no. What do you want it to look like? What does extraordinary look like, right? And so we focused that and created the plan that you wanted. It's always the way that you do it. And then you said, okay, I'm going to go do it. And we checked in the next week and you had done it. And then each week we started talking about completely different things. And at one point I checked in with you and I said, hey, Scott, how are those calls going with your kids? Are you still having them? And you were like, oh, yeah, every week. I love them. And then gave me all these great examples. And I love that because
Yeah.
you took it. You said, this sounds like the plan that will work for reestablishing the relationship in depth with my children. And so I'm going to put it in place. And I am always going to do what I say I'm going to do.
Yes.
And so you never wavered on that. You were like, this matters to me. And you just ran with it. And then we didn't even spend coaching time talking about it anymore, but you were experiencing that change in your life after what we talked about it for 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah, it wasn't much. I was laughing as I was going back and setting some old notes about some of the things, and I found that the list of questions you and I had put together about how I'm like, I don't even know what to ask them. I don't even know how to start a conversation with them other than what are
Yeah,
you
that's
doing
a
for
good point
Thanksgiving?
because we'll do that. Like, whatever you need
Yeah,
to actually make the plan work, we'll create. So we literally like created a list of questions to make those first conversations easier. We scripted that first conversation about how do I tell them that, like, be vulnerable and say, I don't think I've always done the right thing. I want to do it now. Will you work with me on this?
yeah.
And it was beautiful, but like, we'll do whatever you need to get there, and it can be baby steps, but then look at like once he implemented it, how boom.
I was laughing because I was like, oh, I haven't looked at that list in a long time, for probably
Yeah,
five
because now
months.
it's natural.
Yeah. Yeah. And the conversations don't just rely on me to start them.
Love it.
It used to be I needed to ask questions to get them moving.
And we talked about the fact that it would be that way for a while
Yeah.
until it felt natural, until they opened up. And now it's just a beautiful adult relationship.
Yeah. I had to laugh because I don't, a couple weeks ago, my son was like, hey, I know we normally talk about this time on Thursday nights. My buddy got a new puppy and I want to go see the new puppy or no, buddy was in town. Sorry. A friend
Mm-hmm.
was in town over the long weekend. He's like, I don't get to see him very often. We're going to have dinner, but I'll call you as soon as I get home, or I'll text you as soon as I get home. We could talk then. I'm like, great. It was awesome. That was so fulfilling.
We'll try different things because unique things will work for different people and in different situations. But when you don't just do it and then move on to the next thing and you actually stop and evaluate, then you can fix it and fix it for good. What we know is what you're doing right now isn't working. So let's break that apart, figure out what some of the pieces are that we know don't work, and let's try some things.
Yeah. No, appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about bulletproofing your career. So by the time this airs, I'll have just released a podcast called FU Money, FU Relationships, and FU Skill Set: How to Bulletproof Your Career. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience working with me on just that? Because like you said, when you came in, you weren't quite sure what your future would be, but you knew you wanted to feel ready for the next role at your current company, or if you had to do something else, then being ready for that too. So will you talk to us a little bit about how you felt around increasing your executive skill sets?
So, to kind of reiterate a little bit, I came to you thinking about extending things. I didn't know what that would mean. I like that you call it bulletproofing my career. What it's brought me is the confidence and the calm to know I can handle what comes. It's taught me to think about the tools I used to use, like a project management tool when I was a project manager. Rethink how I use that and apply how an executive would think about it, and becoming very comfortable that I can handle what comes. And I know how to build relationships now. I've been doing that in my current role with some of our senior leaders across the company. But it's for me, the bulletproofing of the career is a couple of things. It's really the calm. I'm pretty good at what I do. It now has started to resonate with me.
Do you think you would have said that before? With that swagger, I should add.
It would have taken that. It, we talk a little bit about my identity. What I would have said is um, that I now see myself as a cheerleader. I mean, I guess for myself, I don't know. So I'm my cheerleader or my coach. I'm not my critic. There's plenty. The world's got plenty of critics, and
Yeah.
I don't need any more. And so where I came from, we had a phrase called "You suck, get better," and and it again, it's tongue in cheek, right? But it's an ounce of truth and a pound of joke, and your mind can't can't shake that ounce of truth.
Yeah.
And so I now am comfortable that I will assess my life honestly and with encouraging feedback to ensure that I am the best version of Scott I can be at any given time. And sometimes that's not going to be as good a version of Scott as yesterday or tomorrow. And that's going to have to be okay.
Because you're human.
Yeah. I feel like I've bulletproofed my career, which I like the way you phrase it. I feel like I now have the calm to know that I will fail, but I will do so without shame. I will show up because it's what I do and it's who I am. I will not let silly little people bring me down. And if I am the best Scott I can be each day, my world, and therefore the world, will be a lot better place. That's the way I get out of bed in the morning and think. Sometimes do I slip? Yeah. Sometimes does George show up and go, that was pretty bonehead, and probably has some other words. But at the end of the day, if I maintain that mental model, that philosophy, those thoughts, and I apply the tools I've learned, I don't have any concerns about my future. And so where I really this resonated me as I was thinking about this question, when you asked me to do this podcast, original Scott would have said, and his buddy George sitting right next to him, would have said, What if you screw this up? She has done so much for you, and you could send her ratings in the toilet. I don't know how podcast ratings work, but that would have been something George would have said to me. Scott 2.0 said, sure, I'll do it. Never done it before. But I can talk about anything for an hour, and I sure can talk about me for an hour. And if I bring the best me, maybe I can help one guy out there who needs a push to help for the help he wants, even though he doesn't know he wants it yet. So,
and I really appreciate you doing it, because that was one thing we didn't say at the beginning. But when we talk about, were there any male testimonials on my website? It is not because I haven't worked with men. It is because a lot of the men don't want it to be publicly known that they had a coach. And I think that's something we can continue to work on. And sometimes there are workplaces that are pretty judgy around it. And so that's some of the reason that people want to invest themselves and have it be private, and that's fine. And some of it is around still the idea that getting help is some sort of weakness, right? When really it's an accelerator. And you saw that. And I appreciate you coming on as a man on the podcast to talk about your experience, because it allows other people to see that they deserve to invest in themselves too, and that they can accelerate their growth. And it is not about being broken.
right. Again, I know guys are ruthless, and we can be ruthless with each other. Locker room humor is pretty cutting. But what I would tell any one of your male clients any guy out there who's thinking about following up and getting coaching, whether it's Shayla or somebody else, but I recommend Shayla, is stop being a dude and ask for directions. You need it, right? It helps to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest. You have to be willing to open up, be vulnerable. You have to be willing to say, I don't get it, or I don't know, or I'm uncertain or scared. Um, but in my life, if I'll go to a golf pro to work on a swing, which is this much of my life, why wouldn't I go invest in a coach for the most important part of my life? And that's me, or you, if you're listening to me talk to you right now.
I love that. And my favorite quote on coaching is, not every athlete has a coach, but every Olympian does.
No, it's true. And I read a lot of books and I've been able to take a lot of those books now and parlay them into the lessons you and I have gone through. I started with a therapist as I went through my divorce, and I'm still with her today. And we do insist when I started dating Jill, I said, just so you know, I go once a month. You're optional until we get engaged. And once we're engaged, it's a required attendance. And so it's your choice as to when you want to join. And you need those types of things in your life. And if you're not willing to go get help, because we all need help, contrary to what my parents thought, we all need help. It's okay. And you need to go ask for it. And as a guy, stop being a guy and just
And
take
it
some
can be a lot
direction.
of fun. I think people are worried it's going to be like stressful, or I'm going to give you 10 hours of homework a week or something like that. Like, we enjoy the time together, and it's just 30 minutes a week. So we get a lot done in a quick
Yeah.
amount of time.
And every session starts out with, Scott, what do you want to work on? That was, I'll be honest, one of the things that threw me for a loop the first few times we got together. Like, yeah, no, what are we going to work on today, Sheila? And you're like, no, what do you want to work on? Like,
Yeah, it's your time.
man, I hadn't thought about that. And so then, well, what's going on in your life this week? And you're very good at then generating the conversation from that. So
But
appreciate all.
now when we're not together, think about, what is going on in my life? What do I want to improve? And so it gives a thoughtfulness to you on your own life and how you want to use your time and what lever you want to work on. So
Yeah.
I think that now you absolutely have a strong voice in that. And there's sometimes where we say, let's work on the PH lab, like the formula, the performance and happiness formula, and we'll go to those exercises that will help you. And I pull exactly which one you need at the time. But you know what's important to you. And so you're able to come very intentionally and say, I want to work on this. And so, okay, let's round it out now. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions. One of the things I'm obsessed with is ROI. I worked for Coke for many of years, and I care absolutely about the numbers. So talk to me a little bit about your feelings on ROI, on performance, and on happiness.
So on the performance, on the career piece, my ROI is going to work out on this. Nothing has changed. We're still going through the next generation is transitioning. We're talking about what my future looks like, and all of that is very positive. And I don't know that that would have happened without this coaching. So I'm going to be honest about that piece, but I don't know what that really looks like specifically. Happiness piece, and I'm starting to sound like a broken record from some of your other podcasts, although I do think it's awesome when I hear your clients talk about came to you because I want to change jobs, and you did it. I wasn't wanting those things, right? I was wanting just to know how to extend my career. The happiness returns unmeasurable. The relationship with my kids worth every penny I've spent with you. Uh, Heart attack, and being able to right to be able to say this is not a bad. Yes, it was a traumatic, terrible thing, but for me to walk away and go, hey, how great is Scott 3.0 going to be now that you're going to be healthy because you had this scare and you need to take yourself seriously, and sometimes you do need a little brinkmanship, right? You do need a traumatic event in your life to make a change. This piece was just going to happen later. Guess what? It just got accelerated while I was with Shayla instead of towards the end of working with Shayla. It was, but again, that value right there about me being excited about how my life's going to change, that's is amazing for me. And then getting rid of my inner George and slowly working him down to nothing has been really valuable. So, and it's the type of stuff that carries all throughout your life. So, having a vision for who I am and what I'm doing, companies are worthless without a strategy, without a path forward. And yet, boy, what am I worth now that I have a path forward and now that I have a vision for myself? Wow, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Very
Because
excited.
most of us just let life happen to us.
Yeah.
And instead, yours is all by design now, all with a strategy, all with intention.
Yes, it is. And the few situations where I don't feel like that's the case, I know how to go work on them. Or I bring them to you and we work on them together for the rest of my time with you.
I love it. All right, let's go back real quick. You said you love the sports analogies. You came up with a great one for how I work with people through the PH Lab and one-on-one coaching. Will you share your football analogy with us?
I will. I put some notes together. I want to make sure I kind of
I'm
lay it
now
out.
stealing it, just so you guys know. I just updated the website. So if you go to ShaylaKing.com, you'll see my version of what Scott's going to explain.
So I just started out in the one-on-one coaching, and then you brought in the circle, success circle piece for the life vision component, and then as I was studying up what the PH lab looked like, or PH plus lab looked like, and so I kind of threw it together as I think about it now as, and I can reverse engineer it, but the one-on-one coaching is like being in the Super Bowl or the World Series. It's like being in the big game in your life. And if you ever watch a professional quarterback or other players on a team sport where in the biggest moments of their life, they've got somebody sitting right next to them saying, here's how we're going to deal with that in the case of a quarterback, that blitz next time, or that here's how we're going to deal with that problem that's going to come at you next time, or here's why we made that mistake, and here's how you're going to go change, and here's what you're going to do about that. And oh, by the way, you deserve to be here, and you're the guy to do the job, or you're the person to win this game for this team. That's the one-on-one coaching, and you see it, but it's when you see today. I hate to use Tom Brady, and I hope you have to pay any royalties because I said his name. But to see him come back from a 24-point right deficit in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl,
I feel like you could have given a Patrick Mahomes example, but whatever. We'll roll with Brady.
I could have, but Patrick's almost never behind, and he's just so great. Brady, people forget Brady wasn't very good sometimes, but in all seriousness, right. So that's kind of the one-on-one coaching. And then you think about the circles, the success circles, and how you're approaching that. To me, that's kind of like regular season, kind of like, but it's practice, right? You go into the training center and you spend time together as a group. You study a playbook. You work on what look good looks like. We talk about with each other. Hey, remember when you missed that block, or hey, you made that great block, or what you really did a great job here, or look how you brought something to the team or the game that was meaningful, but we talk about it as peers and colleagues with a team coach in the room with us. And to me, that's a lot of the what I see as that circle piece. And then the personal happiness lab to me was kind of like preseason. Yeah, there's some, we do some scrimmaging, there's some 7-on-7 stuff, right, or whatever analogy you want to use there, but we don't have pads on, we're not hitting full speed, but we're going to study the playbook together, and we're going to talk about, and we're going to learn real time, just less intense. I shouldn't say it, less intense, but without the real games in between.
Let's
So
really
each
nail
one,
the.
right, and each one builds on the other. I know I just did it in reverse order because that's the way I have experienced it. To me, that was just, as I was trying to think about um, where that all fits together and how it fits together in life, each one builds on the other. For those of you that like a little book learning first and then want real life stuff, you've got the steps laid out for them now, especially if you like a little bit of structure. Whereas the one-on-one coaching, there's no structure. If things are going great, then we talk about what's going great and how we're going to keep building on it. If we're getting our tails kicked, right? There is no structure other than here's the 4 or 5 things that you're going to focus us on.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about much of your work life during this conversation. But one of the things that I know we've done a lot in one-on-one is real things that are part of your daily or weekly
Yeah,
work life. Like how do you manage projects with your team and how do you prepare for a presentation? How do you build the internal network and prepare for this big conversation? And so I don't know if you want to talk for just a second about those real tools, because one of the things that you have said is that it's helpful that I've been in that role myself,
right.
right? And been an executive myself in those tools.
So a lot of tools, right, that I've used throughout my career, like project management or relationship building or presentations. When you want to, there's the title of the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, right? And so it's all good and fine that I know how to use those tools in my previous. What you were able to do was help me leverage how to use them differently as an executive leader. And so, yes, presentations in the past, I've done a lot of those, and now that my words are more meaningful, my exposure is much more valuable. Those need to be better. And we talked about what does a presentation look like, what's in it for them, right? We talk about who's in the room, what do they already know. In the past, I would have told you when in my previous roles, my job was to make sure people knew. So didn't worry about what they already knew because my assumption was to
Yeah.
make sure that they needed to know everything they needed to know was in there instead of going, well, they already know this. So why waste my time? Why waste their time on this?
Yeah. And as an executive leader, they expect you to be concise and respect their
Right.
time. So that is a really good point.
And the project management tool. Yeah, yes, when I was running projects, I knew how to manage all my sub stuff, and I knew how to manage my project and how to stay on top of my organization and making those changes and building timelines and stuff like that. But how do you go now make that work across a team of 10 when you also need to be able to summarize it up the chain as well to your leadership and your peers, and preparing for staff meetings and things like that. We've worked on all those tools. Your experiences have made them valuable. Your ability, one of the things we talked about along the way was how to control a meeting, right? Hey, hey, John, or hey, George, I know you've got something you want to say. Let me finish my point. We'll come back to you when you get interrupted and things like that. Simple stuff like that I hadn't seen
Help you
people
nail
do.
that executive presence, right?
Right. And so it's all about the routines and everything that we do. And so, yeah, we talk a lot about the personal stuff, but the personal stuff has to me, the personal stuff carries over for me into the work more so than I think the work stuff carries over for me. I don't, I'm married to a project manager. I don't need to worry about that at home, but how I am at home needs to permeate through the office.
Gosh, looking back, we've covered a lot in 7 months, haven't we?
We have. It's been funny how I was looking back through my notes and some things and went, wow, there's a lot of sessions in there. I got 30 sessions in there, and I think you and I have taken 1 week off for vacations or something,
I
and it
say
never
work
feels
hard,
like
play
it's
hard, rest soft.
yeah, but it's never felt like The sessions don't feel like work to me. So that's even
Good.
better.
Good.
My closing thought is my relationship with my adult children, recognizing its value to me and working on that, working to enhance that with every chance I get. Man, that has been powerful and so valuable to me. And then my focus on happiness in my life, no more negative focus, that piece. And
Yeah.
then the last piece is for me, intentional thought, controlling your emotions and choosing how you interpret things in your life and choosing how you accept what's going on around you and how you control your reaction to that. To me, I compare to a rising tide. It lifts all boats. Everything else in your life gets so much better when you control that, when you're comfortable with that and adapt to it. That's the big thing. It's easy to teach myself to go to do that for golf, but it's hard to do that when you get out of bed on getting ready to go home and your truck's not usable, right? That's
Yeah.
just so.
But that's when you get to show up for yourself and you get to
Yeah,
use those skills in a way that matters. I love that. I tell people, the thought work will change your life. And I think it's hard to always get that before you've been in it. And so I love these examples that you've shared with us today. Being able to navigate a freaking heart attack the way that you did, I mean, that is proof that you're able to manage your thoughts.
I can't even imagine what a mess it would have been if I hadn't been doing this with you.
I'm very proud of you, Scott.
Thanks.
All
All
right.
of your
It's not all me. That's the thing. There's two things you have to do to work with me that I tell everybody. First, you have to believe in the inevitability of your dreams coming true. And second, you have to be willing to do uncomfortable things. And you did
having a
both.
heart attack was uncomfortable. That's a joke, by the way, just before anybody goes crazy on this. And that was, in all
But a lot
seriousness,
of it is
that's right.
even just like calling the kids and saying, I want to do it different. I don't know if I got it right. That's uncomfortable.
That was.
You were courageous to do that. And then on the other side of it, you got what you wanted. But a lot of us stop once that gets uncomfortable. And so I really admire you saying, I'm going to decide what I want, know and declare, and then I'm going to do uncomfortable things until I get it. Love it. Okay. Any final thoughts on anyone considering investing in themselves and joining the Performance and Happiness Lab or doing one-on-one coaching?
I think if you do the Performance and Happiness Lab, you'll be hooked. Haven't been through it exactly, but the piece around the circle experience I had with all the lovely ladies you're also working with at the same time you're working with me, and working with them was a lot of fun. I've made a couple of contacts and relationships there that you'll be surprised at how much this will help you. Do it for your career and enjoy the benefits in your personal life. You can find a way to make it work. So give it a try. I mean, you'll waste. It's just, if this is a true waste of money for you, anybody who's thinking about this, and it won't be, but if it is, you'll find a way to get it back. Just go for it. I truly mean that in a positive way, Shayla. You give it a try, and the rewards will be there.
Love it. All right. I want to end on a positive note. Give me one thing you're so proud of yourself for what you've done this year.
I keep going back to my kids. Just am
Yeah.
so proud of how we have built that relationship and how even today I was talking about we have a meeting tomorrow night and I'm like, yeah, I'd prefer not to go to dinner afterwards because I want to make sure I'm home in time for my call with Patrick and I don't have to move it. And so that's
Living in
so important
alignment.
to me. Yep.
I love it. All right, Scott, thank you so much for joining us on the 5% Club podcast, and we will see you soon.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks for joining me in the 5% Club today. If you're ready to work less, make more, and design a life you love, go to ShaylaMKing.com to join the 5% Club waitlist. Each Monday, I'll send you something you can implement immediately, and you'll be the first to know when applications open for the Performance and Happiness Lab, my group training program designed to accelerate you into a happy, confident executive who loves their whole life. See you there.